Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to crochet this adorable pocket penguin. This pattern, like all the Kindness Company crochet patterns, is a quick crochet, making it perfect for spreading crochet kindness. It's also a great pattern to make if you sell at markets, as you can crochet it in under an hour and it's a no-sew project. Alright, let's go ahead and get started.
We're going to go ahead and get started on the pocket penguins pattern, and we're going to begin with this black fluffy yarn. And the first thing we need to do is tie a magic ring. So let's review how to tie a magic loop or a magic ring. Okay, so let's review how to tie a magic loop. So to start, we're going to get about 5 inches of our tail of our working yarn. And then we need to form a bit of a finger guns here with our left hand. And then we're going to lay that tail so that the tail part of it is down over the bottom digit of our left hand. And then we're going to take our thumb and pinch that tail so it's on securely to our index and our middle finger. Then we're going to take the working yarn, and that's the yarn that's attached to the ball of yarn, and we're going to wrap it around the back side of those 2 fingers really close to the top digit. So I'm just wrapping around the back. And then I'm going to continue by pulling it behind my thumb. So I just made a big loop around my fingers. Then we're going to wrap a second time, but this time we're going to go around the lower digit on the back side of our left hand. And then one last time we're going to push that working yarn behind our thumb on our left hand. Then when we've done that, we can take our crochet hook and we're going to flip our left hand over so we can see those 2 loops that we formed. And then taking our crochet hook underneath that top loop, we're going to use the hook to grab that bottom loop and pull it underneath the top loop. Then when we've done that, we're going to flip our hands back over away from our body. And then bring our hook and our left hand together. So you can see my fingers on my right hand are touching the back side of the hand with the loops on it. Then I'm going to take my right index finger and thumb, and I'm going to grab those loops that are on the back side of my hand. So the one on the hook and the one on my hand. Once I've got those pinched rather securely, I'm going to let go with my thumb and then slide all of those loops very carefully off of my hand. Once I've done that, you can see I have my tail. Again, that's not attached to the ball of yarn. And then my working yarn. I'm going to move my tail out of my way, kind of just swing it around clockwise to the 12 o'clock position. And then I'm going to grab my working yarn and begin tensioning it by laying it over my left index finger and then grabbing the remaining yarn with my pinky and my ring finger. Then we need to be able to tension our yarn, so we're going to have to let go with our right hand. But before we do, we need to make sure we're pinching the loop that we've tied and our tail together. So if you look, I like to kind of pinch so that it sandwiches that working yarn. So I'm just going to pinch both that loop and that tail together here. And then when I've done that, I can let go with my right hand, and pulling my index finger up lets me tighten that loop on my hook. Then to lock our magic loop or magic ring in place, we can yarn over and draw through the loop on our hook. And that locks everything in place. You can let go with your left hand. You can even stop tensioning if you want. This loop isn't going to go anywhere now that we've locked it in place. One last thing that I like to do before I get started is I'll take the tail. You can see it's sort of threaded through the loop that we've made. I like to take this tail and pull it out so that I can go ahead and get started placing single crochet inside. Before you begin, we also need to make sure we are working both in the loop and over the tail of the magic ring as well. Alright, so we are ready to make our first single crochet stitch. Alright, so now that we have formed our magic ring, we're ready to go ahead and get started. So if you look at the top left-hand corner, you'll see that we have the pattern up here. and it's going to track with us as we move through the pattern here in the video. So you can reference the written pattern, but of course you can also just check out the top left-hand corner for what's going on. All right, so for round 1, we need to place 8 SC in MR. So what that means when I translate it is we need to put 8 single crochet stitches inside of our magic ring, and then that number on the outside of the parentheses, the number 8, that's how many stitches we're going to have when we get to the end of the round. All right, so let's begin by forming our first single crochet stitch. So remember, we're going to be working in both the ring and over the tail that we use to form our magic ring. And then also we want to work these single crochet stitches kind of loosely, because when we pull the tail to tighten this magic ring, especially with fluffy yarn, it tends to be a little tough to pull. So make sure you work your stitches nice and loose. All right, so to form our first single crochet stitch, we're going to take our hook and we're going to go through the ring and also lay that tail over our crochet hook. Then we're going to yarn under, so put the yarn under our hook and draw up through the loop and a nice tall stitch here on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over, so putting the yarn over our hook and draw through the 2 remaining loops left on our crochet hook. So that forms our first single crochet stitch. I also like to grab that stitch and pull it towards my hook a little bit to sort of tighten it. And then we also need to mark this stitch by taking a stitch marker and passing it underneath both sides of that little V that forms the top of the stitch. So there's our first single crochet stitch. Let's go ahead and form the next one the exact same way. We'll take our hook, go through the ring and also underneath the tail, yarn under and grab that yarn and pull up a nice tall loop. Then yarn over and draw through both. And we're going to just keep adding single crochet stitches in this way until we have all 8 stitches in this round. Alright, so I have all 8 of my stitches, and you can double check by counting the little V's. I kind of turn my work on the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we don't count the loop on our hook because that's sort of like a stitch in progress. Alright, so once you have all 8 of your single crochet stitches added to your magic ring, we're going to pull this tail very carefully to cinch that first round closed. All right, that sets us up for rounds 2 through 3, so the next 2 rounds, where all we need to do is put 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch from the previous round. So let me get us started here. We're going to take the stitch marker out, and our stitch is going to go in the same place that the marker was just in, because that's our first stitch of the round. So let's take that marker out. And then we're going to slip our hook underneath both sides of that little V. And then from here, it's just like the single crochet stitches that we formed when we put them inside the magic ring. We'll yarn under and draw up a nice tall loop. And then yarn over and draw through both. And then we're going to mark that because it's the first stitch of our round. Then we'll go to that next little V, push through from front to back, and make our single crochet stitch just like we have all the other stitches so far. So we're going to keep adding single crochet stitches. There's going to be 8 in this round, and then 8 in round 3. So you can see that's the end of round 2 for me. To start round 3, I'll take my marker out again and go through the stitch that it was just in, and then remark. And then just continue adding single crochet stitches to the remaining 7 stitches of the round. And that wraps up the penguin's wing, so we need to fasten off. So to do that, we're going to take our marker out, and then we're going to slip stitch in the spot where that marker just was. So to do that, we're going to go through that stitch just like we have been from front to back, yarn under and draw up a loop, and then we're going to draw this loop through the other loop on our hook. Next, let's take that magic loop or the magic ring tail and let's tuck it inside of the wing here. It's going to hide out in there. And then the last thing that we need to do is we're going to slip stitch this wing together. So to do that, first let's make sure that the stitch that we just slip stitched to is at the very corner of the wing. Then we're going to fold that wing in half. So we're just going to squish it along the top here. And then we're going to slip stitch through both layers of that wing to close off the top. So I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to push through both layers of fabric. And then yarn under and draw through, and then draw through the only loop left on my hook. So there's our first slip stitch. We need to make 3 more. So I've gone through both layers of fabric. Here's my third, and then my last. And you can see that closes off the top of the wing. Then we're ready to fasten off all the way, and we can do that by cutting a short tail, 4 or 5 inches. And then we're going to take our hook and we're going to pull the loop that's on it from that last slip stitch we made all the way out. So just keep pulling until that working yarn goes all the way through. And then we're going to take this tail and tug it to tighten it down. Then we also need to weave this tail in because we don't want it in our way when we're attaching the wing to the penguin's body. So go ahead and thread the eye of it through your tapestry needle. And then we're going to take it and sew it straight inside of the wing. So just really close to where the tail comes out. And sew it inside. Then you can unthread your tapestry needle. And by holding the tail tight, you can snip close to the fabric of the wing. And then discard anything you didn't use. And that is one of the penguin's wings done. So let's make one more and then we can move on to the penguin's body. Alright, so I have both of my penguin's wings complete. So now I'm ready to go ahead and get started on the body. So we can set these aside until it's time to attach. Then we're going to grab that same black yarn that we used to make the wings and we're going to form another magic ring. Alright, once you've got that magic ring formed, we're ready for round 1. Where we're going to start by putting 6 single crochet stitches inside of this magic ring. And don't forget, we're going to want to mark that first stitch. Alright, when you've got all 6 single crochet stitches placed inside your magic ring, we can pull the tail. That closes up the magic ring and sets us up for round 2, where we've got a new kind of stitch that we need to learn. So if you look up here in the top left, you'll see there are 6 INC stitches in this round. So INC stands for increase, and the way that we're going to do that with a single crochet stitch is we're going to put 2 of them in the same stitch from the previous round. So let's start by taking that stitch marker out. And we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in this same space that stitch marker was just in, just like we did with the wing. And then of course remark that stitch. And then to finish our increase, we're just going to go through that same space a second time. So push our hook through, yarn under, yarn over, and make 2 stitches coming out of the same stitch from the previous round. So if you look at the end of our instructions up here in the top left, you'll see the number 12. we're doubling the amount of stitches we have by increasing in each of them. So we're going to continue increasing in every stitch in this round for a total of 12 stitches by the time you reach the end of round 2. Alright, so I've reached the end of round 2. Before we move on to round 3, let's pull our magic ringtail tightly one last time and then give it a trim. I like to leave a little extra left over on the back side, so maybe an inch to half an inch to an inch. And of course you can discard anything you don't use. I like to trim that because it keeps it out of my way as I continue working around. Alright, so we're ready for round 3. We've got a new skill that we need to learn. So at the top left you can see we've got a set of parentheses and then of course the stitch count at the end. So when I translate those parentheses, what it means is we're going to do everything inside of them in the order that it appears, the amount of times outside after the multiplication sign. So we need to make 1 single crochet and 1 increase 6 times to have 18 stitches for the round 3. So let's start off by placing that first single crochet stitch. It's going to go in the first stitch of our round. And of course we're going to remark it. And then an increase in the next stitch. So remember that's 2 single crochet stitches in the same space. And that's 1 repetition. So we need to do that same pattern 5 more times until we are all the way around round 3. So 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch of the round. 1 increase. There's 2 repetitions. We'll just keep repeating. Alright, so that wraps up the end of round 3. We're ready for round 4, where we've got a new set of parentheses to repeat. So the first thing we need to do is place 2 single crochet stitches. So I know some crocheters get a little confused when they see this. They're like, oh, so an increase, right? Well, if we wanted it to be an increase, we would write INC. So when it says 2 single crochet stitches, it means to put 1 in the next 2 stitches of the round. So we'll put 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round and remark. Then 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch of the round, and then an increase in the third stitch. So 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, increase. We'll repeat that sequence 5 more times for a total of 6 all the way around. Alright, so that wraps up round 4. I'm ready to move on to round 5, where we're going to start by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. Then we'll follow that with an increase. And then we've got our next parentheses pattern to repeat. So we'll put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of the round. Follow that with an increase. And then we're going to repeat that sequence 4 more times for a total of 5 repetitions, which will take us all the way to the last 2 stitches of our round. Alright, so I've just finished my last repetition of that parentheses pattern, and I'm at my last 2 stitches of the round, where all I need to do is put 1 single crochet stitch in each. Alright, so at this point in our pattern, we're going to be introducing a new color, and we're going to keep it attached as we continue working the next several rounds. So if you look up here at round 6, we're going to start by placing 12 single crochet stitches in black. So let's go ahead and get those made first. Alright, so I've made 11 of those 12 stitches. The 12th black stitch we actually need to finish off in our new color because we're going to be switching to white. So let's talk about how to do that color change. Go ahead and get that white yarn ready to go. Alright, so I have my white yarn ready to go here, and we're going to finish that 12th stitch by pulling the white yarn through. So let's start that 12th stitch here in the black. Let's go through our next stitch, yarn under and draw up a loop. But then rather than finishing the stitch by yarning over and drawing through in black, we're going to actually draw through with the white. So I'm going to take the white and I'm going to take a little bit of like the tail end here. I'm going to press it against the back of my piece, and then I'm going to pull the working yarn through that last stitch. Then I'm going to take that black yarn, I'm going to pull it to tighten the stitch down, and then I'm going to pull the white tail just a little bit to kind of tighten the stitch on my hook. And then as we work, we're going to be working in both the black yarn and the white tail, because we need to take the black yarn with us as we continue around. So I like to take those and I lay them over the back of my work. And sort of like we do with the magic ring where we work in the ring and over the tail, we're going to lay those over the top of our hook as we continue working around. Alright, so we need to make 6 single crochet stitches in white now. So we're going to go through our next stitch and make sure we lay both the black and that white tail over our hook. And we're going to continue the stitch as normal by yarning under and drawing up a loop, then yarning over and drawing through 2. And there's our first white single crochet stitch. We'll continue adding them, still laying those tails over the back of our hook. So I've made 5 of those 6 white single crochet stitches. I'm going to cut the white tail short because I've woven it in and I don't want it to get in my way as I continue working around. And then if you look, this 6th white stitch is our last one before we switch back to black. So we're going to need to finish the stitch off in black. So we'll go through, yarn under and draw up a loop. And then we're going to switch by grabbing the black tail that we've been working in, and I usually end up with a little bit of a twist here, so my white tail will be kind of twisted over the black tail, but I'm going to draw through with the black and then tighten that white down a little bit. Then the remaining 12 stitches in this round need to be black. We're going to take the white with us though, because we need it for when we get back to the other side on the other round. So we're going to continue working in black, holding the white behind our work as we go. Alright, so that wraps up the end of round 6 for me, and you can see the white, I have woven it in as I went here on the inside of our work. So we're ready for round 7, and we're going to start by placing 10 black single crochet stitches. So remember, we're going to take that white with us as we work around, and of course remark that first stitch. So there's my first. Alright, I'm about to make my 10th stitch, and remember we're going to switch to white, so we need to finish the stitch off with white. So I'll make the first half with black, grab that white tail that I've been working in as I move, and weave that tail, pull that tail through. Then the next 10 stitches we need to make are going to be in white. Alright, here's my 10th stitch, so we're going to finish it off with the black. Then the remaining 10 stitches of this round need to be made in black. Alright, that wraps up round 7. So for rounds 8 through 12, we're going to repeat the same pattern. So let's work round 8 together, and then I will cut until I get to the end of round 12 so we can move on in the pattern. So let's work round 8. So we're going to start by placing 8 single crochet stitches in black. So here's my 8th stitch. I'm of course going to finish it off with white because we're switching to white. So the next 14 stitches we're going to make in white. Alright, so here's that 14th stitch, switching back to black here. Then we're going to finish this round with 8 black stitches. Alright, so that's round 8. We're going to repeat that same round all the way until the end of round 12. So I will see you back here whenever I am close to wrapping up round 12. Alright, so I have just finished round 12 and I'm ready to begin round 13, but we need to grab those wings that we made before we started the body because we're going to be attaching them on this round as well. So keep those close by. We'll start by placing 6 single crochet stitches in black. Alright, so there are those 6 single crochet stitches in black. Then for the next 4 stitches, we're going to be working in the stitches of the round and in the stitches of the wing. So we'll hold the wing sort of against the body like this direction here. And we'll slip through the wing stitches first. So those slip stitches that we made, we'll go right through those. And then we'll go through the next stitch on our body. And we'll make our single crochet stitch just like normal, working through the body and the wing. So there's one. Here's my next stitch here. So you can see I've got the wing and the body and the white tail all on my hook. Then I'll yarn under and draw through all of those stitches, both on the body and the wing. And then yarn over and finish that single crochet stitch. Then for this third stitch, we're going to be in one of the white stitches here, still working in black though. Here's my last stitch on the wing. And this is also my last stitch in black, so we're going to start it and then we're going to finish this stitch with white. So that's one wing attached. Then we're going to work 4 single crochet stitches here in white. Here's my last white single crochet, so we'll switch to black. Then we've got 2 black single crochet stitches to make. Then we'll switch back to white. Make 4 single crochet stitches in white. And switch back to black. Then we're going to attach that wing, just like we did with the last one, in 2 of the white stitches and 2 of the black stitches here. So we'll hold it so those slip stitches are right up against the body. Go through one of those slip stitches on the wing, and then the next stitch on the body. Yarn under and draw through the body and the wing. Yarn over and draw through both loops on the hook. And you can see that attaches the wings to the body here. And then we'll finish off this round by working the 6 remaining stitches in black. Alright, so that wraps up round 13. For rounds 14 and 15, we're going to repeat the same pattern. So let's work round 14 together. We'll make 10 single crochet stitches in black. So here's that 10th stitch. I'll finish it off with white. Then I'll make my next 4 stitches in white. Switch back to black. Make the next 2 stitches in black. Switch back to white. Make the next 4 in white. Switch back to black. Then make the 10 remaining stitches in the round in black. Alright, so everything we did there in round 14, we're going to do again in round 15. So I'll see you back here whenever I finish round 15. Alright, so I just wrapped up round 15. Round 16 is the last round we're going to need our white yarn. So let's go ahead and get started by placing 11 single crochet stitches in black. Alright, so here's my 11th stitch. We'll wrap this one up with white. Then we're going to make 2 single crochet stitches in white. Finish this one off in black. Make the next 4 single crochet stitches in black. Finish this 4th one off in white. Make the next 2 in white. And then this is the last white stitch we're going to make, so we'll finish it off in black. And we can cut the white yarn. And then the remaining stitches in this round are going to be in black, and we're going to work that white tail in for a few of those stitches as well. Alright, I've worked that white tail in far enough. I'm going to go ahead and give it a snip. Then continue working the rest of these stitches here in black. Alright, so before we move on to round 17, let's go ahead and pull this last loop on our hook long. And we need to get the penguin's eyes attached. So let's go ahead and grab our safety eyes. Alright, so I have my safety eyes here. I'm ready to go ahead and attach. They're going to go in the space between rounds 13 and 14. So the last round we worked on was 16, so let's count down from 16, 15, 14, and in this space between rounds 13 and 14, we're going to place the eye. And then we'll make the other eye on that other mask kind of shape here on the penguin's face. Then once you've got the eyes positioned, we can snap the backs on to lock them in place. Alright, now that the safety eyes are attached, we're ready to continue working. So let's go ahead and get our hook back inside of that loop we pulled up long. And for round 17, we're just going to put 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. Alright, so for round 18, we're going to go ahead and start another parentheses repeat pattern. And we'll begin by placing 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of the round. And then we need to decrease. So to do a decrease, we're going to go through the next stitch and yarn under and draw up a loop. And then we're going to do that exact same thing in the stitch after. Go through, yarn under, and draw up a loop. And you'll have 3 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 of those loops. Now that's how we'll decrease. We're going to continue that pattern of 3 single crochet stitches, and then a decrease until we are all the way around. Alright, that's round 18 done. For round 19, we'll start by placing 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of the round. and then decrease. And we're going to repeat that sequence all the way around. Right, that's round 19 done. For round 20, we'll start by putting one single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. Follow that with a decrease. And then repeat that pattern another 5 times for a total of 6 all the way around. Alright, so before we make round 21, which is the last round of crochet that we have, we need to stuff the penguin and then also add the beak. So let's take this loop on our hook and pull it up nice and long. And let's start by adding some stuffing to the inside of the penguin's body. Alright, so I've got my penguin's body stuffed. Next up, I'm going to sew the penguin's beak. So I'm going to take a little bit of this orange fluffy yarn and cut a length of it. And then we're going to go ahead and get it threaded through our yarn needle. And then we need to tie a knot at the far end, the end that's not attached to our needle. So I'm going to hold on to that end on my needle, wrap it around counterclockwise about 4 times, then slide all those wraps down over the eye of my needle and tighten them when they get to the end of that string. I'm also going to trim the other end of that knot. And then we can send it in through the top of the penguin's head and up to where the bottom part of this black little V shape is. So we'll sew some long straight stitches down here at the bottom of this mask to form the penguin's beak. So there's that first straight stitch, also a few more just to really make the beak. Then I'll send that orange yarn back up into the fluff of the penguin's body. And I'm going to tie a surface knot inside by looping my orange inside the fluff of the body. I'm going to sew into some of the fluff and up through that loop that I've formed. And then pull to tie a knot. And then I'm going to unthread my tapestry needle. And I'm just going to tuck the rest of that orange yarn in. It's going to hide out inside of the penguin's body. Alright, we're ready for our last round, which is round 21, where all we're going to do is decrease in every stitch all the way around. Alright, so there's my last decrease. I'm going to fasten off by slip stitching to the first stitch of that round. And then I'll leave a long tail and pull that last stitch long. And then to close up the top of the penguin's body, we're going to go ahead and thread this tail through the eye of our tapestry needle. And we'll sew through the front loops, so just the front side of that V, for all 6 of the remaining stitches of this round. Once you've sewn through all 6 of those stitches, we're going to pull very carefully to close that last round. And then we'll tie another surface knot by looping the black yarn over the surface of our work. It's kind of hard to see here. So into a little of the body and up through that loop that we've made. And then by holding that loop close, we can pull that tail to tie a knot. Then we can weave that tail in by sewing it down into the body. You can unthread your tapestry needle once it's woven in and trim. And then the last thing we can do is we can add a little bit of blush here to our penguin's face. So I'm going to put just a little here, and I'll match on the other side. And that wraps up this penguin's tutorial.